GM, everybody. This is Neil, leading the technology from Kaia. Welcome to the second, I would say, lesson. That is all about the Kaia 101, Kaia development and ecosystem basics. So I am Neil, as I mentioned, leading the technology and also ecosystem from the Kaia project. Actually, before that, I was also leading up the technologies and ecosystem for Clayton Foundation. But why Clayton? Why Kaia? What are these? We will go into a bit more details in a second. So I am actually an early software architect and engineer in blockchain technologies. I think back in 2015 when we first see the yellow paper from Ethereum. Very recently, I have been, as I mentioned, as a head of tech at Clayton, and previously was serving as a group blockchain lead from one of the major diamond company called the Bears back in the UK. I have been participating as a advisors for different blockchain related organizations, as you can see on the right. Some of them, they might be Easy Council, some of them, they're more like institutions, for example, from UCL, from Cambridge, or from Oxford, being an advisor or even a researcher for the research group in the university. I have been the major guest. If you search my name and Clayton or Kaia, probably you will see some recording what I did in the past, speaking about Kaia or Clayton technologies or overall blockchain industry insight in a technology sense. And I have been also serving as a part-time researcher, leading a research group at University of Cambridge, focusing on the distributed intelligence system and blockchain applications for industry like supply chain. Now, previously, I am quite sure you went through the first lesson by our very own Peter Ayo. We were looking into the blockchain fundamentals and overview. That will be including the blockchain introductions, the overview of consensus algorithm generally, POW, POS, and everything, cryptography, distributed network, different types of it, what is the concept of the smart contract and VM, etc., etc. I think certainly, Peter did a fantastic job and went through all the basics, and that is the reason leading up to a bit more Kaia specific, and that's the reason why I present our second lessons is all about Kaia 101 to learn the fundamentals of Kaia protocol and ecosystem, and also the opportunities that would be available for you after when you're completing this bootcamp as a certified EVM developers with Kaia. Now, today's agenda actually is quite packed. So please bear with me. And from the start through to the end, I'm quite sure you'll be benefit from all this kind of, I would say, knowledge or content, which will be applicable for a future development journey with Kaia. Now, today's we will start with something about the Kaia architectures and tech advantages, less on the advantages, but more like really onto the deep dive of Kaia architectures, especially the protocol. Then we will be looking into the consensus mechanisms of Kaia, the Kaia governance, how we have been developing towards the EVM compatibility to claim ourselves as a most scalable messengers EVM layer one. What is it very specific for Kaia account and transaction models? Some of the user experience features that we have on our chain, for example, the fee delegations and gas abstractions. And finally, we will wrap up with some ecosystem use cases. And I would say a bit more like the ecosystem development side of it for Kaia, so that you know the opportunities present to you and where we are heading to as a layer one project. Now, before that, you may heard of you might have heard of Kaia, of course, that's why you're here. And you might have heard of Clayton or Finchia or Lion and Cacao messengers. So basically, Kaia is actually born with the conceptions of the chain merge between the Cacao blockchain named Clayton all the way since 2019. Also in the same year, there was a Lion blockchain project called Finchia together, but Clayton is more on the EVM and Finchia is a bit more on the Cosmo base side of it. So basically, we don't share the VM, we don't share a lot on the technology side. There was a very difficult, I would say, position for us last year to mastermind the whole plan for the chain merge. And even as of today, it's only a year after, we might be still one of the major chain merge use cases, or I would say case studies in the blockchain industry. So Kai actually born with the chain merge between Clayton, Finchia, end of story. So Clayton is a bit more like focusing on the infrastructure side. Finchia, obviously is a messengers, blockchain to start with, more like focusing on the product asset in Asia. Now, of course, both of the project coming from Asia, and we went on and go on, inheriting our Asian focuses because the messengers user, they're all coming from Asia. And of course, if you're on different continents, don't be disappointed. The messengers and the application, or even the dApps, general dApps on Kaia, can still be at your doorfront, and the technology and infrastructures, they are all at your doorfront. If you have the internet connections, that's why I am trying to speaking to you right now. So, so to speak, if you are building Kaia dApps or mini dApps, we are all with the open arms welcoming you to be on board as our developers. Now, let me dig deeper onto the Kaia architectures and tech advantages for the first agenda that we have as of today. Now I go straight onto the network topologies for Kaia. Really, Kaia was EVM chain, and being honest, it was inheriting from the Clayton mainnet, and we keep our status as an EVM layer 1. Now, if you look at the slide, Kaia or X Clayton actually running with the 3-node network topologies, I would say structures. So you still see Cypress right here. We don't call it Cypress anymore on Kaia. We just simply call it Kaia mainnet. But the Cypress was the name of the mainnet for Clayton previously. And you see on the mainnet, we have the 3 layers, as I mentioned. CN, the consensus node. PN is actually the proxy node, and EN is the endpoint node. And you think of consensus node is a validator node in today's, I would say, today's fashions with the languages. And endpoint node is more like the RPC node that is actually dealing with you, developers, directly for any to consume or serve any requests that you might have coming from your backend, or maybe from one of the Ethereum libraries that you're using, firing with the request. Actually, the RPC node will get used to your request and process and update the stage to the smart contract, or maybe just having some kind of request from you, having some state changes on the blockchain itself. We have been also running a sidechain logic that we have. That is what we call the service chain, which is having the exact same structures. But between that, we also enable the bridge between the mainnet and service chain. And but at this moment, service chain is only still on the being adopted very mild. Every dApps, I would say mini dApps, they're all building on the mainnet with the same purposes. Some I say purposes. So some may be looking into the opportunities in the ecosystem. Some would like to gain the users of it. Some are looking into the volume or even maybe revenue of it. And certainly Kaia mainnet is the fundamentals layer of the mini dApps ecosystem that we're trying to build. And this is also the centerpiece of us when we're looking into the trade and earn environment for the next step, stepping into the second stage of our ecosystem adoptions growth. Now, I mentioned the three node structures of the mainnet, which is the Kaia blockchain. And I also mentioned a little bit endpoint node is at the front face to the applications and maybe to your wallet via the application, which is that. If you look at the right-hand side, this is exactly what I trying to mention. Core node, maybe I start all the way from the core node. Core node is more like the validator node that is already having different, characteristic already, I would say, features or areas that we look into, the P2P networking, the EVM, the validations, etc., etc. Basically, that is receive transaction requests from the proxy node. The proxy node actually receive, I would say, caches transaction requests from the endpoint node, and all the way the endpoint node serving the application request via the RPC or maybe via with the node, they're actually using the RPC to interfacing with the application. And each of the node that you see from the Kaia blockchain do have their own storage. They do need to have the P2P networking. This is how you're going to have the node discovery so that they will be connecting with each other. But if you look at it, proxy node is more like a buffer layer transit, kind of transmit the finalized blocks to the endpoint node between endpoint node and core node, these sort of structures. And core nodes is actually how they're going to have the block productions, how they're going to have the vote, how they're going to have the consensus together amongst the validator node. So that is essentially process the transaction in the EVM. That is the job for core node. Proxy node is more like transmit the valid transactions requests to the core node as I would say, as a middleware or as a middle layer. Endpoint node facing the application directly, and wallet and application, I don't think I need to have a lot of explanations right here. This is just coming from developers and the application serving the users wallet. That is the basically flow that you see from the request to the transaction being fired from the request all the way from endpoint node from our blockchain, proxy node, validator node, and the transaction being processed, transaction being packaged into the block being produced, the block being transmitted. As I think Peter mentioned that from the last lesson, how blockchain is formed, actually is block plus chain. The chain is actually including the messages from the previous, block into the n+1 block header. This is how they're going to get connected and refer to the n-1 block to chain it together. This is the overall concept of it. Now, on the unit Kaia architectures, Kaia is actually onto the consensus mechanisms of, I would say, practical BFT. But under practical BFT, we do have the Istanbul BFT, which we're going to go through in a second. We mentioned that the Kaia architecture is actually equipped with the 3-node model, the consensus node, I would say the core node, the proxy node, and endpoint node. The extended account model, which means that we have multiple key pair per on-chain account that is also durable on the Kaia, on the protocol level. And we do have the multi-format transaction model, support on-chain delegated fee, on-chain multi-sig, rebate, and also cross-chain checkpointing, etc., etc. The gas model is dynamic, but deterministic, which we keep it as the lowest level that you will see at this moment is about 1/10 compared with Ethereum mainnet. We are processing with the transaction ordering and the fashions of FIFO, first in, first out. This is what we are looking into. And we do have Kaia specific pre-compiled contract. Why this is important, why we specify the OX3FD as an address space, or I would say address header of this pre-compiled contract. You will find the answers later on related to the EVM compatibility. This is the summary of the Kaia architectures. If you really go into the architectural layer, you will see application, wallet, interface, execution, governance, consensus, cryptography, etc., and synchronizations. So I want to explain a little bit, as I mentioned previously, the ex-Clayton Cypress actually start as a fork of Ethereum in June 2018. In 2019, the mainnet launch. Kaia actually inherit Clayton Cypress, and we have the Kaia mainnet that we have. And Kaia has still been contributing to the same foundation that Ethereum stands on, software-based blockchain, but we would like to build, and we have been building our own UX for use cases built on Kaia ecosystem. We need to be really scalability focused. We need to really be the UX focused. These are, how we have been looking into. And on different layers, when we first fork from Ethereum, of course, you see from orange and, purple, everything has been modified, even though it was a half of 7 years ago, roughly. But if you can look at it, the consensus and cryptography side of it, yes, we still inherit the security from Ethereum, but on top of it, we are trying to imposing our own UX enhancement for our own focus group of users. So what would be the focus group of users of Kaia? We will be going through that in the Kaia ecosystem sessions. But in order to enable the UX, we need to enable what I mentioned from the previous slide on the protocol layer. For example, the multi-key account model, the on-chain multi-sig account control, the multi-sig transaction model, etc., etc., and even the immediate finality that we talk about. But when you look at Kaia, really to summarize the technological advantages, or I would say the strength of Kaia, even though we went through the hard fork, we becomes one of the most scalable EVM layer one. We are looking into the fastest and usability maximized layer one. And as we mentioned, we put 5 to 6 years. Actually, the mainnet of Clayton launched back in 2019. And so far, we have 2.5 billion transactions over the 5+ years. And then we have already created, I think, 185 million blocks, ever created. And we still inherit the 1 second finality. And this is what we call the immediate finality. We remain fully EVM compatible, building on Ethereum. I would say building on Kaia is like building on Ethereum, but we've improved, UX. And we support any, dev libraries, EVM tools, logics, or even EIP. Every hard fork of Ethereum, we would make sure the maximum features or proposal EIP included in the hard fork will immediately available on Kaia when we have the new versions following the hard fork from Ethereum. This is how and what we promise the full EVM compatibility. Fast and reliable, immediate finality. We have the battle test scalability. Now the number is even higher, but at least we would say 4 grand or 4,000 plus TPS that we talk about. We also recently enabled the gas abstractions, via the V delegation has been very long time since 2020. That is for the fee delegation. A DApp can pay the gas fee on behalf of the user. And for the gas abstraction, we further look into user can pay gas with other tokens. This has already enabled in our latest versions of our Kaia protocol. It's already on the testnet. We are aiming at the end of June. Everything will be on the mainnet. You will be able to enjoy the features. Even though you don't hold any Kaia, you could still go ahead as a developer to fire any Kaia transactions, even though you don't have the Kaia token in place. Well, of course, with the USDT, the native USDT that you see on Kaia, we might be expecting you preferably using the stablecoin to pay for the gas that you have, or you could just being a long-term holders. We could build the ecosystem together. We expect the token values and everything hopefully will be appreciated with everybody right here joining our ecosystem, building creative and innovative pieces, serving the immense users from the user base of the messengers. That is what we hope. And of course, that is our every missions to onboard you as a developer building on Kaia and enjoying the benefit together. Now, I just want to reiterate one more thing right here is that Kaia is indeed an open source project. Unlike some layer one, they might be, for security reasons, they designed to close source the code base. Kaia is going into the opposite. We are open, transparent about every changes that we have. We plan for the release. We plan, of course, release with the release note, with every hard fork that we post. And you could actually go through the GitHub and see the protocol and other, not just the core protocol as well, but you could go through other repositories that we have. They're all open source, and for you to contribute with the right bounties or without bounty if you really love our project. And we do assume that you really love Kaia as a project. That's why you are spending the time with us on the bootcamp to learn from the scratch. And as we mentioned, open source project is not just open source your code base. The discussions, the proposal for improvement, everything should be open source, voted, discussed in a open fashions. So we do have our own Kaia improvement proposal, short-term as KIP. If you click onto the link, by the way, the slide you don't have right now, rest assured, that is actually my strategy to keep you focused on what I speak instead of going through 100 pages ahead of me. Just kidding. I don't have 100 slides for today. It's only 60 something. And we will be sharing the PDF versions of this slide for your references in our Discord focus group. Then you will be going through and coming back to look into these resources whenever you're building up the knowledge and development experience across, this month with us on the bootcamp. We hope you will have a pleasant, learning journey and eventually becomes a certified EVM developers with Kaia via this bootcamp. Discussions-wise, you could go with, of course, X, that forum, etc., and go into that and discuss anything that you might have, request for any test support that you might have during the journey of your development. Now, the second agenda will be the Kaia consensus mechanisms deep dive. We are looking into the consensus right now. Now, if you look at our industry, there are many consensus algorithms, and I would say the mechanisms. POW, when we all look into Bitcoin, that was certainly an invention, and today is still I would say, beautiful art. To me, it's an art in terms of the security, in terms of the consensus mechanisms. It still does, it still works, it's still, as a fully decentralized. People argue on a point whether there's fully decentralized, fully distributed, yes, but decentralized and distributed is different concept. But rather decentralized and very decentralized compared with different layer one, I would say Bitcoin. And we also have proof of stake, but if you look at the general consensus algorithm, this tends to have some problems, like inconsistent block generations time. You just don't have consistent block generation time, meaning that you won't see every 2 seconds or 3 seconds or minute, you'll be expecting a new block being produced and broadcast along the network. So you don't know when the transaction will be settled. You just need to wait and keep refreshing the pages on the Explorer to see whether your transactions and your transfer transactions got settled. And there are also chain fork, not hard fork, the versions, or soft fork, I would say, but it's a chain fork. It could be, when you look at the Ethereum Classic or the Ethereum that we have today, could be an example, or some reorg that we would say. And the finality, we are talking about probabilistic finality, not something that you will be expecting. What you see is what is being finalized, these sort of fashions. And because as I mentioned, the UX we are really striking for Kaia or Clayton to start with, as a EVM chain. We're looking into using the practical BFT and especially the IBFT that would be designed as a Kaia consensus that we go with. The fast block generation time, I'll say fast block time, 1 second. And because of the block time is consistent as 1 second, we have the instant finality, in every 1 second block time that we expect to have. And with that, we are talking about the energy efficiency, just that the consensus is really based on, a consistent block generation time. We don't really have the math puzzle that we need to solve. Of course, having a math puzzle to solve and compete the time, the earliest time to solve the puzzles is what POW does and what POW really good at in terms of decentralizations. But we are more like onto serving services, giving the experience that they have closer to Web 2 that they are using. This is what we are focusing on, the user experience. Now, when you look at the consensus algorithm as a classic PBFT, that is actually consists of 4 stages already, like the prepare phases, which you see a proposal makes it broad and broadcast is as a proposal. And prepare phase that you will see each of the committee members, you can think of committee members as a quorum of different consensus or core nodes in our language. Each of the committee member in a committee, they will validate the proposal and broadcast a signed prepare messages to the round committee and the next round of the committees. Now, when you look at the commit phases on the left, you will be looking into the commit phases. Each commit member will collect 2 vote no plus 1 prepare messages and then broadcast a signed commit messages to this and trying to be final or finally committed. And at the final stage, each committee member seals the proposal with the received commitment signatures and finalize the block. And this is how the block being produced and further down being broadcast. And everything happened in milliseconds and wrap up within a second in a standard 1 second block time that we talked about. Now, you might be looking at the gas limit concept from Ethereum. We are more like onto the computation time limit that we are looking into. So it's very different from the gas limit that you talk about. And that's the reason the 1 second block time would work for Kaia. And for this is just a little bit more detail about the new round and what we call the states for more like for software engineer or maybe for every developers right here, which you prefer to see the state or I would say the handle for different states that for each of the process in detail, what's going to happen. But long story short, to summarize, the reason why I go into too deep is even on the consensus algorithm that you could understand Kaia, then basically you'll be understanding why Kaia protocol and ecosystem, why we're heading into the directions of UX and scalable features as a messengers layer 1, and how many messengers users that we have, why we are serving messengers, the background and everything. I explain a little bit, but when I move into the sessions of the Kaia ecosystem, you will connect all the dots together and you will all the way from consensus algorithm to the ecosystem, then you will truly understand how the layer 1 blockchain is being built by a group of fantastic, I would say, team members with a hard work in the past 6 years in this way. Also from the FinShare side as well, via the chain merge with the Line ecosystem for sure. Now, long story short, for the consensus algorithm, we are talking about a number of voting nodes should be smaller than 1/3 of all nodes. And the number of messages of n node is actually being put into the big O, n to the power of 2, which is the square of it. And this is a number of messages per round that you look into for each of the block being generated. On consensus, we take 1 second as an immediate finality. And with that, immediate finality is guaranteed. I know that is not, if you look at the big O, it's a variables for sure. It's also, it's a square. It's not something that really, I would say, straightforward, but still we are talking about 1 second block time. This is I would say singular, but at the same time, the big O also guarantee the immediate finality that we could have. Now, if you really work out the proposer node and validator node, these are all on the consensus node or core node structures of it. And the pre-prepare, and the prepare and the commit, each of the stages, that is actually all coming from the proposer, and it will be going from each of the stages, each of the participating consensus node in a quorum, and I would say the committee will be behaving, and then kind of verificate, like I would say kind of validate, and at the end of the day, after 2F+1 prepare messages received, the block will be stored, and after 2F+1 committed messages received, the block will be finally produced. You don't need to be really worried about how exactly the block being sealed and being produced right there. But you maybe from this slide, you only need to understand is the number of voting nodes should be smaller than 1/3 of all nodes. And then you will be looking into a number of messages of n node that will be with this big O, which is enable the immediate finality that we can see. Now on to the Kaia governance. As you may know, Kaia have consensus node or core node, and each of the core node, or in the industry fashions, the validator node is run or operate by each of the governance council members. Now, if you help me in a second, you don't have the link, you just Google Kaia Square, then basically you will be onto a portal, and this is a portal for any KIP to be voted, any proposal to be voted. Basically, this is a governance council portal, all about voting, analytics, some treasury plan that you could see. This is all about transparency that we're trying to build for our blockchain, even though we want to be scalable, but it doesn't mean we're going to give up on the transparency, even though we are less decentralized. Now, when you look at the governance council, we have 41 members right here, and each of the member also, with a specific API, with a specific total delegator right there, with how often they've been voting, that will be having different API being presented, and depending on how many delegate amount that they put together, the API is also changing. But with that, you will see all the I would say governance council members that is contributing for the improvement of Kaia going forward, and has been upholding the values of transparency and improvement-based layer 1 that we have, serving with better user experience to our users. Now, so that is the Kaia Square that you will at least be interacting to. And if you, in the future, would love to look into a proposal that will be, sharing and for the voting, which means that you're building something really big and you need the governance council to approve on that. But we are certainly that you are pushing forward for the Kaia development and serving more users. Now, governance council, of course, a major part of it is on the voting. The on-chain voting is actually decision-making on blockchain. It inherits perfectly for the blockchain characteristic. You could also see that on the right-hand side, you could skip the proposed transfer and also execute transfer for a second, but it's more like for the proposal ID, like calculate the proposer and everything that you will be seeing to a supporting features. But the cash flow, you could also see on the right, first of all, getting the vote, and also they will be counting the vote and making sure the weight is there as a variables that you could get. And based on the weight, the cash flow features will be having individual consensus node to actually cast the vote for. But how does it work for the voting method? Is actually have two ways that we do that: the header base or the contract base that we are looking into. But on-chain voting is really inherent perfectly for the blockchain characteristic that we talk about. in terms of the transparency, I would say integrity is also very important. Long repudiations is also something that you will see major blockchain characteristic, and the enforceability is something that we're looking into. But anyway, so for the voting agenda, some voting types can enforce network configuration changes. I mean, some proposal on the Chi-square. It could be related to the governance mode. It could be related to onboarding new governance node. It could be related to the minting amount, the block reward distribution ratio, and even we have some kind of about the gas prices. In the past, we have the Gini coefficient, the validator management, etc., etc. Do we add? Do we remove? How do we manage it? This is more like enforcing the network configuration changes. And we also have the text proposal available after the 110 versions of Clayton, ex-Clayton, which is Kaia, that we could have finally contain the detail of the governance agenda, which is essentially support the contract-based voting method that we are having. Now on to the first voting method, which is the header-based voting process. If you look at it, voting equals to proposing, yes. The first vote for a distinct governance item is considered as a proposal. If you look at the block header, the header-based voting process means that is also a variables, I would say, metadata, call or name vote data. And then the block header itself already contains a vote in this metadata. And the step is going to be the consensus node or the core node operator use governance vote API with the voting data. And the core node generate a block with its vote data for that specific block header. And all node receive the vote data in the block header will be the final step when the block is being generated and broadcast. Now, if we look at each of the epoch, I would say epoch, yeah, epoch is the good pronunciations of it. If you look at each of the epoch, voting should be completed by consensus node, must be. And basically each of the consensus node will vote in the epoch n. And when you look at the settlement, at the end of each of the epoch, the result is validated and settled. And block headers contains the settled result, what we call the governance data. In the next epoch, this governance data, I mean the values of it, will be added into the metadata of the governance data in the block header in the next epoch. And then you will have the block number, being I won't say generating, but with the next block numbers that you will see. Like the settlement is applied onto the card network after one epoch. So we are always looking into the epoch n+1. We have another voting method, which is the contract-based overall process. So GC, the Governance Council, can post a proposal in forum for discussions. What do we mean? We mean that if you click onto one of the proposal, very recently that you see the GC membership application for Sango. Very luckily, we have some exposure for Sango. You'll be looking into the proposal in the governance forum about the GP13, and you will see all the detailed tax bases and everything that you have, and a bit more discussions amongst the Kaia governance and also different GC. Now, as mentioned, GC can post a proposal in forum for discussion. If the proposal gains popularity, the secretary uploads it into Chi-square for voting, the proposal will go on chain. And the on-chain voting on Chi-square is exactly the contract-based overall process that we talk about. So it's all about the proposal in forum, discussion in forum, announcement on the portal, voting in the portal, on the portal, and decision that you will see with the voting result, and the implementation finally will be there when there will be new transaction being executed for specific smart contract that we have. So the stage will be something pending, active. It may be failed, it might be passed, it will be queued, finally executed You have all the standardized days right here. It's a week. I think the normal process that we look into is about a month for every proposal to be processed finally. That's the reason why this is a monthly process, as you can see from the Kaia script. Now, for specifically how does it work, I won't go into really detail, but after the voting, the parameters will be updated. The gov params and gas prices and minting amount, if that is related, will be updated. For example, if the proposal is related to these two metadata, and then that will be go all the way as a gov param, and then the transaction will be fired, and of course the smart contract right there, everything will be updated, and the protocol reads the network parameters from a smart contract, which is the gov param, and the governance contract can make changes to it eventually on all the metadata that is being involved. We mentioned how Clayton became EVM compatibility and how Kaia inherit Clayton. And the next session, I would like to talk about the EVM compatibility. So before that, as I mentioned, Clayton went all the way starting from a hard fork of Ethereum. And of course, we start with introducing UX improvement and new features to enable this UX improvement along the way. We have been having some, I would say, feel quite painful journeys being an incomplete Ethereum compatible. We try to be Ethereum compatible blockchain in the past. We emphasize more on its own features and data structures. I mean, our own features and data structures than the Ethereum compatibility. And end up we did not keep up with the latest EVM versions and interface changes. And some semantics of the node JSON RPC API become really different. And that results in pretty much effort to port, or I would say integrate Ethereum dev tools to Kaia. So basically we were having I would say dot time that if you're using Ethereum libraries, it won't work on Clayton. But now you know that you can use every Ethereum libraries. You don't even need to use our own Kaia library. You won't find any Kaia libraries to start with, first of all. I mean, not the app-specific SDK that I talk about, but something really similar to Ethers or Web3 JS or Web3. It could be different languages that you won't see that on Kaia, because we would rather focus more and inherit this I would say Ethereum compatibility, and to have more developers using the tools that they would love. They have been using it to develop on Kaia. Now for Kaia case, the EVM equivalence as a pillar of Kaia since 2022 with the ex-Clayton ages. And Kaia has made it more than EVM equivalence with the support of the Ethereum equivalence. So every EVM features is available on Kaia core protocol. Ethereum development tools are all applicable. So if you're developing from, I guess, the next lectures, we will be teaching smart contract. And when we are going into the third module, we are talking about the dev tools. And at that time, you will be seeing the power of why EVM equivalence is essential. Now they're building on EVM chain, if we call ourselves EVM chain. And how it works is basically our protocol. I would say our VM support both both Ethereum formatted and Kaia formatted transactions. So if you're using Ethers, you fire a Ethereum format transactions model, it will be processed on Kaia protocol without any major problems or without any problems. It's actually distinguished both chain transaction type within Kaia, but both type will be working. So this is what we are onto at that time when we enable it firstly with Clayton. Now, finally, with that, Ethereum development is usable on the ex-Clayton Kaia right now. This is a bit more kind of graphical representations for your understanding. We have the blockchain core, the dev environment, the dev solutions. How this happened for the Ethereum compatibility was actually enabled from the blockchain core perspective. We support both JSON, RPC, Ethereum names spaces, and also Clay namespaces transactions. We also enable the EVM Plus, which means that we have both set of Ethereum pre-compiled contracts and Kaia specific pre-compiled contract. And that's why if you look at one of the previous slide that we need to set specific pre-compiled contract address header for the Clayton or Kaia specific smart contract addresses to start with as a pre-compiled contract. I mean, support EVM equivalence for rich dev environment is all about the reasons why we enable the EVM compatibility, the full EVM compatibility. That is amongst the dev tools, EVM and API and core dev contribution, as I mentioned. How if you look at the final points of it is basically the EVM and the KVM is equivalent and enable the support of the Ethereum equivalence. The dev tools, EVM API, and even core dev contribution via improvement proposal from both ecosystems will be working with each other reciprocally. And this is what we're trying to stress on the benefit for this Ethereum equivalence. So so emergency of the EVM market create an opportunity to experiment innovation without the cost and risk of the Ethereum mainnet. That was part of the reason why we go into a subway, not following as a typical EVM layer one. We want to maintain the compatibility and also being a scalable EVM layer one. Even though our big O was not linear, we are still guaranteed with the immediate finality. That's why you see 1 second block time. That is enabled by going different from Ethereum, but at the same time, we keep the compatibility for the dev tools from the development experience purposes and also the core development contributions as well from both sides, contributing to the ecosystem and also core improvement. Now on to we talk about a different accounts and transactions model for Kaia. How unique are these? Basically, when we were looking into the Kaia UX improvement, we are looking into the Kaia usability enhancement. The account model does enable the changeable private key, does support of multiple private keys. That is very interesting to see. And that does support a role-based keys. What that is, we're going to cover in a second. And for transaction model, there's a multi-transaction types that we could enable on core protocol layer. We also enable the fee delegation and nowadays the gas abstraction features onto the core with the specific transaction model that we're going to have. Now, if you look into how this usability enhancement being enabled is for some reason, for some example, that is via these, I would say the variable types, the account key type role base, which is what we enable to have the role transaction, to have the role account update, to have the role fee payer. This is everything to support the role-based keys that we talk about. Now, if you look at the account model for Kaia, so typical blockchain address is basically coming from taking the hash of the private key that you have. If we are talking about asymmetric account, so that you have the public key and private key. Basically, the address is coming from the hash of the private key. Of course, not for the private key, but yeah, the private key for something that you retrieve. But yeah, so taking the half of the private key, then you will see the address. But Kaia is a bit different. We are exactly not just by doing that. We have more than these. We also have security enhancement. So it doesn't necessarily be by only taking the hash of the private key, just like Ethereum. So basically, we have security enhancement to enable, because the address is not directly from the private key, this security enhancement is enabled. With this security enhancement, we are talking about, by changing the private key, by applying the multi-sig, but applying the role-based key. That is the reason, because of the security enhancement, we are very different from the typical blockchain. And the address could be looking really different from a normal hash of a private key. Now, for the role-based key use cases, we are talking about the reason, of course, is coming from a security enhancement of the account update. So basically, the account update key can be saved more securely compared with the transaction key. And for further security, multi-sig is applicable. And there are also new type of, rather new, but now may not be new, the new type of user account recovery. We give the transaction key to users, and they could rotate the transaction key, or even when they lose the transaction key, the servers can reissue the transaction key for them, so that they are not only dealing with the private key all the time. And even though when they don't have the private key or lose the private key, they could not recover the account. We use the transaction key concept and the rotations of it based on the role base. And the fee payer key, which is what has been making the fee delegation possible. The service operator can only pay the transaction fee with this fee payer key, in the role-based key use cases situations. Now, if you're interested, and of course you could always, we have for Kaia ecosystem for developer tools, we also have something what we call the Kaia toolkit. You actually click into it, you will be experiencing, I guess, probably Peter last lesson went through some of them. But if you want to have a first-hand experience that, you don't need to create an account right here, but if you do to create an account right here, not via the wallet, you could always do that from here. You could just generate some kind of private key that you might have. And then, you just generate an account based on that, or maybe via mnemonics. Mnemonics is, I guess, Peter also explained for that, is a bunch of different random words that come up with a logic for you serving just like a private key, but very specific combinations that you have, for example, like this. And then you will be also creating the account that you might have with the address, and you clearly see that the address and the private key when you're trying to generate it. Now, you could also try different things with the mnemonic, these kind of combinations that we have on Kaia, 2048 of them. And you could also create a key store that you store offline. I would say not online for sure, offline. Then, of course, you could also, have from the private key, put some password right here. It's different from the sold, but very similar to the sold concept. With the private key and the sold, and you click the confirm, there will be some sort of functions that happening and create a key store file for you, offline, and anytime that you want to retrieve the private key with your key store, that is how it make it work. And you could experience everything right here and experience different features about account key public, account key fail, account key weighted multi-sig, and how does each of them work. And Kaia Toolkit is a very good resources for you to learn bit by bit for, building on Kaia. And also in the upcoming, don't be rushed. I don't have any full, I would say, explanations of the Kaia Toolkit 2 as a dev tool. But in the upcoming lectures, I would say lessons, there will be different developers from our project. And also you'll see DevOps engineer like Peter going through each of the dev tools that you have. At that time, you will have a bit more deeper understanding on how these tools will be used. Now, if we go back to the slide, I would just say account generation and action. You can try that on the Kaia Toolkit. And you can just search Toolkit Kaia, probably you'll be able to have it for the full link. If you could not search it on Google, then you'll be waiting for the slide in PDF format in one of the focus channel on Discord, then you'll be having it. Now onto the Kaia transaction model, rather straightforward. Is basically with the standardized value transfer, smart contract deploy execution, account update and cancel, plus the fee delegations, plus the Ethereum transaction types. That is everything making Kaia transaction model specific, especially fee delegation. Now onto how fee delegation or even the latest, I would say UX enhanced features that we have for such as gas abstractions. How does it work? So this is an example for fee delegation via fee delegated transactions and fee paying wall, on fee paying wall key that we have, which is we mentioned previously, the fee pay key, the fee payer key that we have. How this is the essential part, how we make the fee delegations features happens on Kaia. So Kaia allows, as a layer one, allows anyone to pay gas fees on other users' behalf. So basically the service pay on behalf for the user on the gas fee. And the fee delegation is done by adding additional signatures to send the transaction with fee delegated transaction type. Fee delegated transaction type, so a specific transaction type that we talk about when we mention that. But it must be having a fee payer role key as a role-based key that we talk about. Now, if you look at Alice trying to sign the messages and trying to send I would say request, but the gas fee is paying by the service, which is for this situation, the dApp. The dApp is actually processed on the fee paying on Kaia, and the sender prospective Alice with her addresses, a fee is not charged and take it in terms of the gas fee that we talk about. The gas fee is actually paid by the addresses of the fee payer, which is the service for this perspective, and the fee will be deducted from the balance of the address of the service, which is essentially explaining the fee delegation, how it works for the dApp perspective paying on behalf of the users. And for the potential fee delegation dApp flow, we have most of the dApps actually make use of these fee delegations, and this is the flow that they have. The deployer initiate the contract deployment transaction from the UI, and then the dApp services, which is the fee payer from the backend, signs and execute the transactions. So basically, this is a fee delegation transaction type that we talk about, a specific one. Now onto the gas abstractions. That is a feature allows user to pay gas fee even further, not on Kaia. The fee delegation, previously we talked about everything must happen with the Kaia token. Now the gas abstraction is another level up, which is different tokens that is included. Especially when they don't have Kaia, how do they pay the gas? How the fee delegations, if they are dApps, maybe they have the smart contract deployed on Kaia, they run in the dApps right there, but since maybe the fee delegators, they don't even have the Kaia, so what should we do? Gas abstractions to the rescue. And supports stablecoin. The mini dApp token, what do I mean by mini dApps? We will go through in a second when we go into the ecosystem. Mini dApp tokens, different tokens like Bora, it will be supporting most of the ecosystem tokens that we have in Kaia. When you don't have Kaia, you can make use of this ecosystem token to pay for the gas fee. But of course, later on, we will extend to list the token other than the Kaia ecosystem token. But when we start with these features, we focus on the Kaia ecosystem token to also generate the values and the usabilities within the Kaia ecosystem to start with multiple tokens from our ecosystem. Unlike other chains, other layer one or layer two, Kaia has implemented our own unique GA architectures. Other chains rely on centralized paymaster or maybe service provider for the payment. Kaia provides a trustless, gasless transaction model, which is another type of transaction that I mentioned. So multiple type of transactions is really the key for us, and we impose the UX not on the level of depth, but all the way from the deep core protocol perspective or level or layer. So why do we need GA? Is trying to be and has been developing as an industry trend, as you see from Ethereum perspective, that is already says like a 7702 users now expect guest abstractions as a standard. And most of the leading wallet, which, that everybody using Matter, they're these wallets or ZX wallet, they're all already adopting GA. So this is certainly a trend, and we need to enable it, and we need to enable it with our ecosystem tokens as well. Now, this is a very simple and straightforward GA example on Kaia that we talk about. Purchase with GA, with gas abstractions on Kaia. So use it with USDT, but they don't have the Kaia trying to play a game. And the wallet pops up and notify the user that he needs a swap when he's trying to fire transactions. And user approve his token, USDT, and swap to Kaia via Gassen's transactions that we have, which is on the bottom right, that you will see that, oh, you don't have enough Kaia, use USDT instead, maybe. If you confirm it, then basically there will be Gassen's transactions that turn, swap it to the Kaia via the Gassen's transactions. And the user can finally have the Kaia, which you won't even recognize on the front end that you do have a Kaia for the gas fee. But by having it, you will be using, at the end of the day, you're using the USDT that you have on Kaia to pay for the gas fee. And on the user wallet perspective, previously it was 0 Kaia and 50 USDT. And after the transaction, you have some Kaia left because we did not spend all of the Kaia that you, I would say, small left over from the swap output. So you will always have something, very small amount, but you did successfully use the USDT to pay for the gas for the very first time when you look at the bottom right as an example. That is simple, but this should be a powerful UX improvement across Kaia, and I would say similar to different layer 1 project, but this one is very, I would say, important and essential for Kaia going forward when we support the messengers, support the mini dApps ecosystem that we're trying to build. Now, finally, when I say finally, that is not really the final. That is only the final session that we have, but this embodies the longest, or maybe the most interesting part of this lesson that we have. Maybe. Let's have a look. So Kaia ecosystem development and use cases. Where Kaia has been heading into when it comes to the ecosystem development, and what are the use cases that we have. So the world is all about mobile first right now. On different continents, maybe there are still arguments between desktop and mobile a decade or 2 decades ago, but certainly nowadays, everything is mobile first. Even for Web3, we're trying to be mobile first, but some people think about security. They might not be very comfortable to have a big amount of transaction on chain, on the go with the mobile. But, being put in a way that Web3 is still stuck in the desktop era because of the example that I mentioned, because of different considerations in security, maybe. Or maybe most of the time, it was all about the UX. The UX does not catch up on mobile, and Web3 is still stuck onto the desktop era. And Kaia is here to make it mobile first, at scale, aligned with our original UX promises and our UX enhancements offering all the way back. I'm quite sure you don't want me to go back to the slide, but there will be one of the assignments for you to go through the slides that I have, and then ask the questions in our focus groups, in our focus Discord group. There will be all this kind of tech support that we'll offer to you, and make sure that you have a happy learning journey with Kaia. So anyway, Kaia is here to make it mobile first at scale. Kaia is coming through from a chain merge. We mentioned that. But most importantly, Kaia is the exclusive layer 1 for both Line messengers and KakaoTalk. It is all about the mobile first and mobile only super app. In Asia, we have a concept called super app. Basically, you can have one messenger's app to do everything for your living. I mean, not make a living, but anything related to your living. So you could call a cab, you can order a ride on the trains, you could transfer, you can pay for And insurance, you could just buy stickers and then share that as a gift to your messengers friends. So you can do everything about your living on one simple messengers, what we call the super app concept. With both messengers combined together, Kaia embrace with a very immense, I would say, 250 million monthly active users on both messengers combined. And we are talking about, this is an exclusive layer one Kaia, which is with a high throughput EVM chain. And we need to be having a high throughput to serve the 250 million users that we have. As I mentioned, in Asia perspective, Kaia has been embracing the largest super app infrastructures, thanks to both Line Messengers and KakaoTalk. And MAU combined 250, workforce-wise and market cap. The main point here is the monthly active users. And that makes our goal very simple, and our mission is very clear, is to onboard the 250 monthly active users all the way to the Web3 via Kaia exclusively. And we were thinking about how we allow the builders to scale. For example, it may be via the turnkey crypto or fiat payments on the messenger's perspective, or maybe easy discovery of the mini dApps, or maybe the user adoptions. With full access to the Line and Kakao Dev infrastructures, this is how we're going to make it happen. But why do we do this? Is to onboard. Having a mini dApp ecosystem is essential on the messengers, is essential. Via the mini dApps, we figure out that is the best strategies for us to onboard the Web2 users from the messengers to the Web3 with Kaia. Now, if you look at most Web3 chains, they struggle to get users. And being honest, Kaia already have them. We already have it. Our user base represent more than 80% of the digital consumptions and spending in Asia. And this is nothing that we're trying to exaggerate. But if you look at the MAU of Line and Kakao core market combined, and also the high spending demographics, we cover all these kind of regions except China, because the major messengers right there in China is WeChat. And WeChat could not do mini dApps. They could do mini apps, but they could not do mini dApps on the Web3 protocol at the moment because of the regional strategies or regulations that I would say. But for more detail, you'll be catching up with most of the news. But here we don't talk about WeChat, but we're more like talking about the two messengers that Kaia has been and will be serving in our ecosystem. Now, thanks to the partnership between Kaia and Line, and Kaia becomes the exclusive layer one for for Line messengers. Kaia is not just integrate into Line, it's embedded across the most high traffic touch point messages, wallet, content like the news and everything, which all the way with the Line Connect, you have games, finance, content. This is where Kaia Web3 is going to be focusing on via the mini dApps, which is a mini apps on the Line messengers and Kaia. Now, the Kaia super app content pillars, as I mentioned, which is the focuses, are the games, content, and finance. The games, the contents already enabled in the first Kaia wave that we have. Kaia wave basically is a builder support program that we onboard and listing mini dApps online messengers that is also build their Web3 or on-chain elements on Kaia. And with that, Kaia focusing and I would say thrives on the three pillars, which is the gaming, finance, and content. And with that, of course, we start with the mini dApps, as I mentioned, on Line messengers. It could be started in Line app. If that is not restricted in your region, I would recommend you try using the Line messengers and explore the mini dApp ecosystem that we have. You can have the play and earn with the Brown Farm, maybe. You will connect with your wallet, any wallet, I would say Kaia wallet to start with and Line wallet that you start with via the Line Connect. We demonstrate the OKX wallet that is also supported. And going forward, you will see all the major Web3 wallet also be supported. And then we'll be finally to earn the reward into your wallet while you are playing the games or using any use cases on the mini dApps. And on the dApp portal, which enable within or in the messengers or in the web versions, that you could explore the dApps and any dApps that you have. We have around 70 so far. You could also swap the tokens, like maybe the between Kaia and the stablecoin, between the stablecoin, the USDT, the native USDT on Kaia with other mini dApps coin or ecosystem, or you could further trade the NFT of it on the dApp portal. Essentially, that portal is also a wallet. You will also connect a specific wallet, Kaia wallet or OKX wallet that you have. The dApp portal is also serving most of the wallet features already. We have so far revealed more than 1,000 mini dApp projects on the Kaia Wave, as I said, the builder support program. And on January 22nd this year, there was our first Kaia Wave. That when we started the Kaia Wave initiative, we had 32 projects. And so far, we are around 70 projects onboarded. And by the end of this year, we are looking into 300 plus, I would say at least 300 projects by the end of this year that we will be expecting to. I think most of the IP that you see from Asia, the games like the Captain Tsubasa, like the Kaito-kun and everything, you would see that roughly all cover in the mini dApp program that we have at Kaia Wave. This is not an updated users. With the potential of 250 million monthly active users, we have already successfully accumulate around 85 million users so far. The detail, you will be able to go to the Dune Analytics right here. And I don't know whether I have a link. Yeah, I think that will be the link, should be the link. So you will be going on to that. You'll be able to see all the dashboard about the latest numbers that we have. We've got a bit of time, low. If you're new to that development, most of the time people are referring to the Dune Analytics on the statistic and analysis and some numbers that you could learn from the from different ecosystem. Now for Kaia, so far the updated number is 75 dApps, mini dApps that we have ever on board. I mentioned 85 millions. I underestimate our ecosystem. I'm sorry. We are 96 million users right now. And it was only going by 134 days as the most updated numbers that we talk about. Now, if you look at the most updated number, you will see you have a potential huge MAU from messengers, but you already seeing the mini dApps ecosystem that we're trying to build are reaching over 100 million very soon, merely with 75 dApps. And not much of them or most of them are having their TG right now, which means that they have not had their token. Just imagine, when the times goes by and we have this become 300 mini dApps on the Kaia Wave, you'll be seeing how many times of this user, even though they are repeated across different mini dApps being listed on Kaia Wave. Even though they're repeated, we are talking about over 100 million individual users very soon. Now, we are looking into the first largest EVM that we think that is coming from the flip side, from the data source. But on the Dune Analytics, you will see everything that being accumulated and analyzed, and I would say curated for you, the data. So you see the new wallet being on Kaia being created since the Kaia Wave launch, which is 134 days before. We've been hitting 15 millions. And I am very much sure that that is a machine or bots that keep having the private key being generated and create a new account for you. It's not like this. We are talking about, a new wallet being generated that is related to the Kaia Wave and the mini dApps. It will be calculated in this board. Of course, we would like to compare box to box or apple to apple with other ecosystem. This is another ecosystem that we're trying to compare, but the main point right here for us is for Kaia. And anything else is for your references. The references is suggesting opportunities are amongst our ecosystem, and building on Kaia as a dApp or mini dApps, you will be enjoying the adoption at a lightning speed. So if you go back to doing analytics, within the 130 something days, we hit the number of 98 millions, 95 millions. And if you really actually put it onto the chart, anything that shoots past 1 million adoptions user mark, Kaia on the first, I would say 100 days that we talk about, in a merely 8 days, that kind of line, if we calculate 8 days since the launch of Kaia Wave, we are looking into just right after the ChatGPT. And I'm quite sure everybody has your threads or ChatGPT, but we are on to the 8 days that we hit the 1 million user mark. And the adoption and active users, if you put it compared with different chain on the left, we are continuing growing non-stop, only with the matter of more mini dApps that we onboard, and I would say the opportunity in the ecosystem. Yeah, so these are all the numbers. But really, are we all happy with only mini dApps and the users? What about there are more use cases like the super app flywheel that we're trying to build and fuse the value accrual for the Kaia token? Of course, we would like to see the Kaia token will be up, but this is not the major part of it. When we talk about the users, of course, it's a major part for every ecosystem. If the native token appreciate, the value of the ecosystem and the market cap of the ecosystem will be appreciated. You consistently see Kaia to be the top 100, top 80 layer 1 ecosystem in the market. Of course, one day we will be hitting the top 10 with the introductions of more mini dApps. But the true point that this would happen is all on the volume and the adoptions and I would say the opportunities within the ecosystem that could be perceived by the dApps. Now, you could imagine that whenever dealing with the mini dApps users will have a fiat payment on-ramp with Kaia or the USDT right now onto the mini dApps, on Kaia, powered by us, but actually on the messengers, say like the line messengers perspective. Whenever that would be any in-game transactions or anything that make use of the Kaia tokens or the USDT on Kaia, then you will be having a Kaia settlement also to the mini dApps partners at the same time. And there will be some kind of a Kaia market purchase via the exchanges, and you will see the Kaia buyback all the way going back to the mini dApps. And this is really for the value accrual that we have for the tokens. But really what I'm trying to say is mini dApps is the first step. Eventually, we are looking at each of the mini dApps. They will have their tokens via their own TGEs. When you have more ecosystem tokens that you might have the gas abstractions when it comes to the user experience enablement, that will be more flexible and the UX will be enhanced for sure. But most important, that will be the starting point for us to start looking into a DeFi, I would say again, a Kaia DeFi enabled by the stablecoin summer. Now the keyword is on the stablecoin summer because we onboard the USDT. The stablecoin summer is coming because officially we have not yet onto the summer, but very soon, 1 more month. But I would wish everybody right here to buckle up for the hottest time of the year for Kaia, which means that there would be many DeFi initiatives being launched that we expect that is stablecoin enabled. There will be many ecosystem or developer community opportunities reserved for you to try and build and earn from this stablecoin summer as a user, as a developers, as a builders, or maybe different sort of developers. People may be talking about security auditors, but Stablecoin Summer will be here serving you and making sure we're serving the opportunity for you to enjoy building on Kaia. We start with the native stablecoin onboarding, but really we are aiming to be the digital dollar gateway in Asia to start with, because the users are from the Asia in terms of both messengers. And you will be thinking about, on the mini dApps, or I would say that portal, you could swap, purchase, and settle with Kaia, between Kaia with the stablecoin, between the ecosystem tokens that you might have, which is the mini dApp coin. And then you will be having the more use cases in the ecosystem for the native USDT upon the issuance, which already did 3 weeks ago. You'll be able to swap your token on that portal with any other ecosystem tokens, pay with the stablecoin in real and digital life via the Line messengers, and access to DeFi seamlessly online with the stablecoin being enabled. With the stablecoin, native stablecoin, and also the mini dApp coins and more ecosystem tokens that we talk about, that will allow Line messengers users to assess USDT yields, I would say USDT yields, and competitive and compliant investment product, respectively on RWA. For example, the RWA could be tokenized for the super app users online, which is on the Line messengers. And that could be that has already been some RWA asset alliance for Kaia to enable this. And there are some examples. For example, it could be Galactica, which is a ship RWA that we have been having in our ecosystem. And that could be just different, like a digital gold that we have, from graders. And that's just a lot of, tokenized RWA could be having a route going into interfacing with the super app users with the USDT, finally. And each of the tokenized RWA is considered as an ecosystem token. So that will be a way to look into. There could be more uptrend, I would say, of the yield generating tokens. So one-click access to the treasury bill-back stablecoin in Line. Now we still see USDT. Later on, that could be more yield-generating token that we could see also as a stablecoin that based on the USDT technologies or framework. And you might be seeing some kind of derived versions of the stablecoin. It could be the yield-bearing, the treasury, like the treasury bill-back stablecoin, or the landing protocol token simply that generating yields while you are hold the token. And importantly, or maybe I would say most importantly, but that was 2 months ago, but right now importantly, I would say we would like to see more agentic mini dApps. And between AI and the USDT and the DeFi, we would love to see some more AI agent-based asset management starting with the USDT. And we would like to see AI-driven DeFi strategies tailored to user risk profile. We just want to make the point very clearly. It's like agentic mini dApps will be Kaia mini dApps ecosystem directions and focuses. And so far, there are projects building AI-driven or AI-enabled trading mini dApps on Kaia, because there will be many assets that coming up, many DeFi protocol DEXs and everything that will be enabled, that you'll be seeing a lot of possibilities, or I would say the use cases that is AI enhanced. For example, the AI-driven yield optimizations via the agentic mini dApps. Essentially, you have a DeFi agent serving you as a users on the messengers. The messengers, via the messengers, you already connect with the wallet. You will have an AI agent to serve for any requests that you might have, for any purposes that you're looking onto. AI optimized staking, maybe, algorithmic trading bots, AI-driven yield, which I mentioned already, or risk-adjusted portfolio management. That might be very important when you have a portfolio management for the ecosystem tokens of Kaia, or maybe stablecoin, maybe the native tokens of Kaia, starting with. But later on, of course, we're looking into supporting via the USDT. We would like to see maybe that could be the omni-chain USDT that we could also support via the omni channels or different I would say interoperability infrastructures that we might introduce in our ecosystem. But the point being made right here is like USDT would allow native USDT, I mean, would allow line messengers and the users to enable to exploring and having investment product made for, I would say, majorly into these three areas. If you have not heard of Kitewave, one thing that you need to do after this lesson will be going on to searching Kitewave. That will immediately, bring you onto the wave.kaia.io. Then you will see there are a lot more information about that. We say mini dApps, but we are really on to build mini and scale big. And we are looking into you building mini dApps one day, you running your own services on Kaia as a mini dApps, and with the mini dApp, you're interacting with USDT or maybe your own logic in the DeFi and bringing the best value and opportunity via the huge, or I would say humongous user bases of line messengers and Kaia to start with. Now, we might cover, it's only 90 minutes. A football match has been entered without any additional minutes. But anyway, after these 90 minutes, we might cover a lot of knowledge, insight, or core part, ecosystem part, some kind of dev tools. Maybe you are with me on the journey, how Kaia becomes what we look at Kaia as of today. But after these 90 minutes or after this session, I would like you to remember, in terms of the ecosystem, Kaia is the Asia super app chain and mobile first gateway to Web3 that is enabled by Line and Kakao, and we are the exclusive layer 1 in the blockchain industry. Now, I want to have a little bit summary of this lecture that we have. We went through the Kaia architectures and some advantages. I did not spend a lot of time on the advantages because by running through the architecture, you could kind of sense what kind of advantages that Kaia has been trying to build with and what kind of user experience expectation that we're trying to deliver to our users. And the Kaia consensus mechanism, that deep dive, this is on the protocol perspective to explain how the consensus mechanism enable the UX expectations and requirement that we plan for on the core level, on the core protocol level. Now, the Kaia governance, how a transparent and community-driven ecosystem Kaia has been building, that is enabled by the transparent governance model, governance mechanisms that we are having. EVM compatibility makes sure that as an EVM chain, we have got most of the developers from the EVM industry or Ethereum could port over or extend their use cases very easily from their source layer 1, layer 2 onto Kaia, just like as if they are building on the Ethereum ecosystem without any changes. And this is sort of the way that how we also contribute back to Ethereum as well by having the reciprocal improvement proposal serving both ecosystems at the same time. Of course, most of the time, Ethereum is a bigger ecosystem. You have so many improvement proposals to be looking at. Some of the Kaia early on, the fee delegation proposal may not even be processed. But when we have more adoptions and we are consistently going into the top 50, top 30, top 10 by market cap in terms of the layer 1 in the futures, we will be looking for more user enhancement, user experience enhancement features in core perspective or ecosystem perspective could be included firstly from Ethereum and further down onto any EVM layer 1 ecosystem or network ecosystem. It doesn't have to be layer 1. We also went through how Kaia account and transaction model enable, especially a transaction model, enable the fee delegation alongside the account. And if you remember the fee payer key, and also the gas abstraction recently, that enable the ecosystem tokens can play more roles or major roles of any transaction being processed on Kaia. And finally, we went through the ecosystem directions and some of the use cases that we expect to have, with the advance of native USDT finally on Kaia recently. I have only one very simple exercise for you to do after this lecture. Although we went through so many things on different levels, introductions, intermediate or advanced level, and running something really general for you to understand the values and opportunity in Kaia ecosystem, I would only like to have you to do one thing, and you don't have to fill out anything because you will need it anyway in the upcoming lectures that we will have. I would like to have everybody get the slide and go into the Kaia full set and claim 50 Kaia on testnet. Don't be so excited. On testnet, that you will be sending with that will be sending to your account, and then you will be start building on Kaia on the testnet in the upcoming lectures that we're gonna have. Now we are on to the second lectures. There will be way more. I would say 10 more coming up. I saw some comments right here. I keep blinking, but I guess people may be saying that, oh, there are so many amazing topics still coming up. Yeah, I think you guys are very excited right now. So we have 10 more lessons to go, and we'll go through the solidity. We will get things into way deeper on the demo driven, and also go along this kind of style of the bootcamp. The first two, we might be going with some fundamentals. It was general blockchain, and then now we are Kaia general. But starting from lesson 3, everything, I would say, starting from lesson 3 or until lesson 11, things will turn to be really hands-on, and then you will really need to join this session to participate and learn step by step from our amazing team of DevRel engineers and our developers from the Kaia project. We would also introduce some opportunity at the end of this bootcamp to you directly, only for you, reserved for you. And we will also invite some ecosystem partners and joining it and sharing what happened, what is going on with the Kaia ecosystem. Maybe some of the mini-dev team going over and sharing the building and development experience with you directly. And then some kind of career path that we could also share when you become EVM, certified EVM developers with Kaia via this dev bootcamp that we have. You might have a lot of questions, and most importantly, you need to get yourself equipped before our next lecture on the solidity fundamentals. You should go through every resources right here, at least freaking through is okay, but if you spend a bit more time on it, trying to understand, certainly that will connect all the dots that we're trying to cover today and in different bootcamp lectures in the future as well. And honestly, we still have a month to go. And after that, we are heading to the Kaia stablecoin summer. So please be seated and relax the upcoming bootcamp, and maybe expecting some exclusive opportunities for you to build on Kaia. Thank you for your attentions. If you do want to keep up, if you're interested in the Kaia ecosystem, and maybe that is the first time that you heard from us, from the Kaia team, explaining everything from the, from the deep, I would say deep down all the way to the general ecosystem direction. I hope you enjoy it. But if you want to have more information, feel free to scan anything in different languages that you might have, preferably in English, because we all speak in English in today's sessions. So you could go through everything about the dev portal, trying to learn, trying to play around it, even trying to breaking it and reporting some bugs. We are very happy to support your report and make every product that we have ever produced from our ecosystem perfect product for our users. Now, after the Q&A, because of the time, probably I think we could go through a few questions, and all the remaining questions, especially those major one and longer one, that we could share the links with you to answer it perfectly. We will leave it onto the Discord group that we might have. And with that, that will be me. That's the end, from Kaia for the lesson 2 about the Kaia 101. Thank you very much, everybody, for your attention.
Yeah, so I think we do have one brave soul who raised their hand. So if they are okay to so in Zoom webinars, there's a really cool function where we can allow brave souls who are willing to talk and ask their question live. So we will go in order. So Paul, I think, has a question. So for those that are brave enough, I will let you guys speak and you will ask your question. Let's see how it works. Okay. Paul, you want to unmute and ask your question?
Have I met with Paul before? I think probably somewhere. But anyway,
Mm-hmm.
Paul, over to you for your questions. Or you could type.
Mm-hmm. Oh, whoops.
Just, oh, your question is, oh no, yeah, oh yes. No,
Okay.
just kidding. Just probably type it right here, Paul.
Yeah, probably disable the talking here. Yeah, maybe that was yeah. So raising your hand in Zoom webinars basically allows you to speak if you're brave enough to ask your question. So we do have one more person. I just want to check. Elate Jami, are you okay to speak and ask your question before I allow you to talk? Because I thought it was a thing. Yes, okay. We have one brave soul. Okay, stand by. You can just unmute your mic.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
GM. Yeah, so new discourse concerning the mobile app. Yeah, I just want to ask if there is an SDK for building on Kaya with the mobile app just to kickstart. So the wallet integration, the connect wallet and all that stuff, just for me to start building my idea. Is it available right now? Yeah, thank you.
Jem, thank you for your question. This is a very straightforward one. And when you ask this question, I could kind of see that you might be just start building the mini dApps right away after today, during the weekend. So yes or no. When we are heading on to the later stages of this bootcamp, we will go through the mini dApps building and development. And when you're going into, at the end of this lecture, you will be enabled with the API key. You'll be having access of the Linux SDK. You'll be able to build mini dApps as per your choices if you wish to. But remember the keyword that I said, stablecoin summer. There will be some major opportunities that coming up that will be open up for you with the SDK resources to build on it. But just for the mini dApps, because it's on the messenger specific with Line, that is currently not open to the public. Only the dev SDK on Kaia that is open, but if you are specifically building a mini dApps on Kaia, on Line messengers, you will need to be invite, and I would say in our term, the whitelist to be building the mini dApps. Normally, when you sign up for the Kaia Wave and you actually build a mini dApps already, you will be invite and also share with the API key to build a mini dApps online. But for this bootcamp, we will go step by step. And at the end of the day, if you are building a mini dApps in, I would say, the mini hackathons, I would just mention it anyway. The mini hackathons that we reserve for you at the end of this bootcamp, we will open up this kind of API key for you to build a mini dApps on Kaia and Line messengers today. So that will be my answer for you, Jem.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, that's cool. Thank you. Awesome.
Okay, do we have any more brave souls who's willing to ask the questions? Otherwise, probably give it a bit of time to see if anybody wants to ask. Otherwise, don't worry, we will be collating chat, whatever was asked in chat, and then I will be exporting, I'll be figuring out exporting it into a Q&A, and sorry, FAQ section, which we will post on our Discord server. I think we do have a channel called Discord Bootcamp FAQ, which we had a number of questions from the kickoff session. Lesson 1 didn't have as many questions, so but yeah. So we're gonna give it maybe 1 more minute to see if anyone is a brave soul enough to ask questions. We have one. Yes. Are you okay? I think so. Yeah, before I allow you to talk, we do have one question. The slides will be available after this lecture. It was Neo's way of getting you guys to, I think he mentioned, to pay attention. So we have one question. So I'm gonna allow you to talk in a minute. Yeah, you can.
GM.
Yes.
Okay, why?
GM.
Yeah, when Leo was explaining about block finality, I didn't quite get it because he was talking about Kaia being an immediate using an immediate finality, which is not clear. We have immediate finality and probabilistic finality. When on immediate finality, the transaction is confirmed and it's irreversible. So I didn't get, because you said it's immediate finality, I didn't get the part. Can you explain a bit better on the block finality?
Sorry, should I call you Manu or Amanu?
Emmanuel,
Emmanuel. Your question, could it be, could you summarize your questions for once more about the block finality? You mean how we enable the block finality, or how the 1 second 1 second block finality enable this kind of UX that we have? Or yeah, sorry, I was trying to a bit lost to understand your questions. Can you just summarize it
Okay,
for me?
what I'm saying is that I didn't quite get you when you're explaining about block finality. You
Yeah.
made a case by saying that the Kaia chain has an immediate finality.
Yeah, so I think I kind of get it. So basically with the broad finality, we are looking into one sentence, very simple. Like what you see is what to be finalized. We're looking into the consistent broad finality so that you know that for a transaction being processed with a broad being broadcast, you don't have to wait for uncertain time and inconsistent time. That is one of the reasons why we use a practical BFT, and so to be very specific, the Istanbul BFT. And we also work out the broad finality to be small enough in terms of time, based on the time computation, but not the gas limit when you calculate it. Because we want to fit any transaction that we have the maximum of the transaction that we have will be processed within and consistent 1 second block time that we have. So you will see every 1 second, we will have a block being created. And then within the second, we will include the most transactions that we're going to have. And only with that, we could enable the immediate finality. When I say 1 second block time, 1 second block finality, so to speak, should be sub-second, but we use the word as immediate finality, but it's the same as I refer to 1 second block time. So basically, this is all enabled by 1 second block time, and every 1 second, the block is finalized and broadcast. And your transaction will not be, your transaction state will not be reinstated. If you compare with the situation in the later lectures that we might have for different layer 2, you might need to have a bit time for between layer 2 to sync with the layer 1. But anyway, as a layer 1, we have the 1 second block time, and what you see and what is being finalized. The certainty is very important for any transaction going through any mini dApps and any dApp that we try to be with the messengers. And for more details, I think we could probably, Sean, we could put these questions again, and then all of our DevOps engineers could supply more details for any questions that you might still have related to the broad finality. Thank you, Amno.
Yes, I will have, as I mentioned previously, all the questions in the chat. I will export it, and then I will figure out all the frequently asked questions, and I'll post it as well as any other questions that we have asked previously, including the live questions as well. I will be including it, and the recording should be available shortly for this workshop. So yeah, just give it a bit of time because it is Friday and it is basically almost 11 p.m. So you do give me a bit of leeway for myself. But yeah.
But at least I think one more before we close, but at least the slide will be supplied right after the session. That is my promise. If I don't live up with my promise, I'm not sure whether you'll be joining the next one. So yeah, so we'll be sharing the slide and PDF versions right away. If you do have any following questions, as Sean summarized right here, feel free to check it out, the video recording first. Then you could have some questions that is a little bit not straightforward. That is okay. That's also part of the tech support that we're trying to offer during this bootcamp for everyone right here. But yeah, so from now on, from the third, I would say lessons, be on time, get your tools ready. We will say what tools that you need to have before joining this session. And yeah, so have your browsers ready. We will be having call along. We will be going through these tools with you. We will be teaching you the Solidity smart contract development from scratch. And that will be everything that we have for this call. Thank you very much for your attention and time. We will see each other again next week.
Yeah, all right. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.